Reform UK launched their election manifesto in Wales earlier today. Nigel Farage sets out his contract for Britain, and GBNews' Christopher Hope, our political editor, labelled it a Tory manifesto on steroids. So here are some of the key findings of this. So on immigration, Reform are pledging to freeze non-essential immigration, to create a new tax on employers to hire foreign workers, and to stop the boats by taking illegal migrants who cross the Channel straight back to France. There's more to it than that, I'm summarising. Elsewhere, job seekers will lose access to all benefits if they don't find a job within 4 months or after receiving 2 job offers. Reform will also include a patriotic curriculum to primary and secondary schools. They want to leave the ECHR and scrap net zero targets, which they say will save Britain £30 billion. Well, in the latest polling today, Reform are neck and neck with the Tories on 18%, that's 18%, as Nigel Farage says that he plans to run for Prime Minister in the next general election in 2029. Well, I'm welcoming now the Spectator's political correspondent, James Heale. James, thank you very much. I think there's quite a bit there that is going to get people going, isn't it, really? And I wonder whether or not, actually, that is the kind of manifesto that if the Conservatives had put out, they might have done a bit better.
Yes, well, I mean, it's very different from the one the Conservatives did put out, isn't it? I mean, this election has really been fought over quite a narrow fiscal terrain between the Conservatives and Labour. And what Nigel Farage has done today is present a very different type of manifesto. He's not calling it a manifesto because he says it's synonymous with the word lies in the mind of the public, calling it a contract instead. And instead, we've got a whole bunch of policies which are very eye-catching, probably not going to actually get implemented. But I think they're ones that kind of shift the territory onto debate he wants to have.
I think things, though, that don't really cost much money, because the costing is always the big question when it comes to manifestos or contracts. The things like the patriotic curriculum, teaching people in primary schools and secondary schools about the good things of Britain's past, and also, I believe, as well, about European colonialism. So making it so that it's not just Britain who, occasionally, went and colonised something, really. That's common sense, isn't it, or not?
No, I certainly think that ought to be more of the case. And I think the real danger for the Conservatives is that they've promised a lot of these kind of things over the past 5 years and yet not followed through on them. And of course, it's no surprise that in that case, when you haven't delivered, you therefore create, expectations gap between, reality and what you've actually been promising them. So I think Reform is stepping into that gap, and the Conservatives should have probably done more of that over the past 5 years.
There are issues when it comes to costing, though. They are spending, I think it's only them and the Greens who are spending as much money as they will be on this. They are going for growth, aren't they? And I do wonder whether or not you've managed to see any areas there that might not make financial sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the danger is as well is that, when it comes to tax cuts, it's all very well to talk about, everyone loves tax cuts. It's the spending cuts that are real issues here. And of course, bearing in mind, you could have Kwasi Kwarteng on the show later. Yeah. His government got into issues about 20 billion of tax cuts and the market simply didn't buy it. And I think that's the danger really, is that you might have the best policies in the world, but if you don't have market credibility, that's when it can really bring you down. So I think that a lot of this stuff, might be great, it might be great sort of 10-year thesis, but trying to do all at once, it can bring you down. And, I think other things such as, talking about things like the small boats crisis and saying, even if we did pull out the ECHR, would that actually mean we could take back migrants and small boats back into France? Well, probably not. And that's what the Navy is saying. So a lot of it sounds great, but would the reality actually be the same? Yeah,
I know Richard Tice is very strong on the legality. He puts it forward anyway of being able to do that. Another aspect of this, again, which might not grab that many headlines, but I think is quite an interesting policy, is making it more palatable for students to do 2-year degrees and not 3-year degrees. It is possible. The GDL, the Graduate Diploma in Law, the law conversion course, you do within 10 months. OK, there are degrees out there that are heavyweight, hard-hitting degrees that we do have the capacity to do within a short time frame, therefore potentially saving the nation billions of pounds when it comes to student loans, James.
And I suspect a lot of students would take up that offer. I know, personally from my own experience and those of my peers, well, a lot of them felt the first year was a complete waste. And so I think that would be something, if it was possibly done, this is the kind of thing that a lot of people will be nodding their heads along with and saying, look, when it comes in, the university sector, that their needs also have to be balanced alongside others, which of course you've got things like the graduate visas. And that's something the Reform have been talking a lot about.
Yeah, indeed. Look, James, thank you very much. We've had a double header of James Heale tonight, which has been fantastic. You'll be sitting in my chair next time, probably, at this rate. But take care. James Heale of The Spectator. Yeah.